Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for stopping by once again. I've done this video a couple times already and junked it because I just didn't like how it was coming out. I've broken it into two, so this one I'm going to discuss the things to do and not to do and so forth regarding real estate, whether it's buying or renting. And then more general discussion of the various areas of the country in a second video. Otherwise, this one has just been too long, so I'm going to try to keep it a little bit shorter by virtue of dividing it into two. So let's move along with that. I've got really basically 7 things I want to get across to folks, and they're based on 17 years of experience with this. And some of the stuff is going to seem to you like, oh gosh, I'd never do anything that silly. Yeah, well, maybe not, but some people have, and everything I talk about are things I have seen and experienced and had to deal with while I was here. So I occasionally see some of this stuff happening every once in a while, and I think, oh gosh, okay, I'm going to run through the list. So let me do that if I can. I got a little list here. And, all right, the first obvious one, never buy sight unseen. Yes, people do get into the internet, they get to see a property, they think it looks really nice, and they actually will buy over the internet before they've even set foot into Panama, or at least sign legal documents committing themselves to that, and FedEx them or UPS them down here. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So don't do it, no matter what. This is one of the problems with things like Zoom calls and video calls and what have you, is that you can get sold, so to speak, by a living human being at the other end, right? You're staring at them face to face, seemingly, in what is actually a long distance conversation. I don't care. It makes no difference to me at all. You need to be here and see it. And that's that. And if you're foolish enough to buy something without ever having even set foot in the country, don't come to me and complain later. And people do, and they seem to feel that somehow or other we have a responsibility to them to give them exactly what they thought they were seeing. I don't know. Don't do it. Then there's a second kind of real estate available here. Not much of it, less every year, and it's called ROP. That's possessorial right or right of possession. This is properties that do not have title. The people who technically own it don't really own title to it. They're Panamanians who've lived there for many years. They didn't have the money to get it surveyed, so without a survey they were unable to get it titled and so forth. Last 20 years we've seen massive amounts of this land titled. There's not so much of this ROP land left. You don't want to get involved with it. I'm not even going to bother going into detail. It boils down to is whoever's selling it may give you a really, quote you a really low price. But the problem is there's no title. He's just selling you his family's right to live there because they've lived there for so many years. I mean, forget it. No title, no sale, period. You don't have to say more than that. Use of a lawyer. Yes, use a lawyer before signing anything that's going to legally commit you to anything. Certainly in terms of a purchase, and certainly in terms of a rental. I mean, if you have a lawyer anyhow, from the viewpoint of getting a visa, why not? But even if you didn't, for a small fee, a rental agreement is not much to have to read through, and make sure you understand who's responsible for what. A purchase of a home is, of course, a big deal. We're talking 6 figures here, or more, I suppose, for some people. But I mean, you wouldn't do it without a lawyer, and you shouldn't. What a lawyer can do, whether it's a rental or a purchase, certainly with a purchase you would do that, is he goes into the property's background, and are there any liens against the property for debts that have been unpaid? Are there any liens for taxes, unpaid taxes? Is the title solid, and is it just who exactly holds the title? Is it one person that has title, or are there 2 people equally titled? And that can happen occasionally with married couples, and they may be in the middle of a divorce. It's happened on one occasion, I remember altogether too clearly, where one of them sold the house, the other one stuck right up and said, no, you have not, and it got to be quite messy. So a lawyer can figure this out very quickly. We even had one case where the owner of the house, who the buyer hadn't even met yet, was actually a criminal, well, was actually in trial, but was eventually convicted of a crime. Not a Panamanian, but involved with drug trafficking of all things. So that's the sort of thing you don't want to hear about later. So this is rare, but it's very important, particularly these liens, these amounts of money, and make absolutely sure they've paid everything up. Because that's sloppy. To miss that is not a good thing. And you won't be able to get that information unless you have a lawyer. They're the ones who have access to that. So that's important. Then, yes, another one. When you are going to rent, you're going to have to pay 1 month's rent as a deposit and 1 month's rent the first month. So whatever your rent is times 2 is going to be what you need to hand over. If that's how you're working it, most people do pay on a month-to-month basis for a year's lease or whatever. Now, obviously, you need to be able to get that money and hand it to them in order to have a contract. You're not going to have a rental contract until that money is handed over to them in return for which you get a signed rental agreement. With a property purchase, of course, it's the same thing, only much more money, typically 5 figures at least. We've been talking tens of thousands instead of thousands, and you need to get those down. Now, the reason I mention all this is you don't walk into a bank here and just set up an account. You begin the process, and the lawyer will help you get one, and it can be a challenging affair sometimes and so forth. It'll be time-consuming. When that is the case, then and even if it's a fast one and it's only a week or something like that before it gets set up, which is not all that common, you want to move that. You want to get this piece of this land or this property's purchased, and that's your whole intent. And you don't look good to the seller if you can't come up with that money, and he's not going to wait forever. So what you need to do is talk to your bank. Either you have somebody back in the U.S. who can legally represent you, or you sit down with the bank and just say to them, this is where I'm going down to Panama, I'm looking at homes to rent or I'm going to buy. I'm going to have a transfer of money made down here. What do I need to do to be sure that I can get it done when I need to get it done? Do I call somebody and so on? Can I do it by email? Is there any way I can do it by the internet? What do I need to do? I need to know precisely what to do. And get that information clear. If you can get it in writing, all the better, and get it settled. You don't want to find out after you're down here that your bank says, no, you have to be here in person in order to send that much money out of your account. Well, I understand the security concerns, and you'll understand them too, but that's why you take care of it before you come down, if this is your intent. Or you have somebody up there who has the legal right to represent you and have the money sent down. You figure that out, but you need to have that ability. Of course, if you're going to get the account set up here and everything done, and the seller is patient, anything can work out. It never hurts to sit down and make it clear with your bank, because you don't want to have to fly home to get a transfer made. Okay. Now, those are 4 rather specific things. 3 general things I want to talk to you about very briefly. Flipping. I got this email in for last week or whatever from a gentleman saying, I've got these great videos to teach your people how to flip properties in Panama and so forth. And I just marked it as spam and deleted it. I didn't respond to it. What an absolute waste of time. We don't flip here. Even at the intense period of 15 years ago when there was a lot of buying going on, there was very little supply and a lot of demand, flipping was not very common. It doesn't work that way here for a number of reasons, but I'm not going to bother with going into detail. But today, we have a great deal of supply and much less demand. So there is no excuse for thinking that you're going to just flip a property. You can get something very inexpensively and someday sell it for a substantial profit, but that's not going to be next month. It's not even necessarily going to be 6 months from now or a year from now. You have to understand this market has to recover, has to go through that inventory before it can really begin to build. In most areas, there'll be some exceptions, but are you yet knowledgeable enough about this area to know where those exceptions are? It takes a long time to get to know that sort of thing. Another issue here, this is the tough one. Don't trust expats more than you would anybody else. And I mean, by expat, I mean somebody from your own nation or someone who speaks your language very fluently or, for heaven's sakes, came from your hometown or went to the same university or whatever. They're nice people, and they may be very honest, they may be very good people, but you don't treat them any differently than you would anybody else. That's that. There's a lot of expats here who have properties to sell, and they can be as tough as anybody to try to convince, to get them down to a reasonable price. They have this feeling that they know what their property's worth, so to speak. And in truth, their property's worth exactly what somebody will pay them for it and nothing more. And that may not be what they want to hear right now. So just be very pleasant, but be professional at all times with everybody. It doesn't make any difference what country they're from. Just be appreciative, listen to what people have to say, and say, I'll be in touch if this seems to be the best deal. And I'm still looking. You see, that's the key. I keep telling people, when you go in and look at a place, and you look at it and you think, I really would like to live here, or I would like to rent here. Okay, that's fine. But I don't know if this is a good price. So you just automatically say that to them. Say, I like it, but I've seen it, and it's very interesting. It's a real possibility. Don't say this unless it is, because you don't want to get stuck embarrassing yourself later. But just, if that's how you feel, just say that. But I'm new, and I'm still learning about pricing in this market. So I'll be talking to 3 or 4 other properties and getting a better feel for it. And if I think this is the best property for my needs, I will come back. Well, you're either going to get one of basically 2 responses. They hopefully stop you and say, well, okay, we could drop this price a little bit, because they know you're going to be hearing other property prices and they've already quoted you too high. All right, they know that. Or they just say nothing in the hopes that nothing happens. And the point is, your point is that your strength here is not pretending that you know what the right price is. And I've had people do that. I've seen them do that. I've heard them do that. They look like such fools. And especially those who say, I'm not paying the gringo price. You know, this sort of stuff. Basically, what you do is you claim ignorance, because you are. But you also demonstrate that you are about to go out and get more examples, and you're collecting information, so you're going to know you're ignorant now, but you're not going to be ignorant in 3 or 4 days. And that's the message you want to get across to them, because they know you just got off the plane. I mean, of course you're ignorant, yeah. But you recognize it, and you're going to deal with it, and that could just cut them right out of the running. Oops. So don't be shy about, and it's not an unfriendly thing, it's very friendly. You're just telling them this is the way it is, and I really like this place, but give me a chance. I'll be talking to a number of others, and I'll be back to you. I'll be definitely back if it's the best deal. Thanks so much for your help, and turn and walk away. And let happen whatever happens. Okay. Finally, and this, don't underestimate Panamanians. This is not their first rodeo. They've been having people from the United States and Canada, of course, but from all over Spain. The Spanish come with an attitude sometimes too about their relationship with Panama, just as some Americans do as well. And there are other nationalities who just feel that they are first world and we're third world and all that stuff. Please, I mean, not only is it annoying, it's not true anymore. The world has changed rather dramatically. So they're really, people are people. And down here, they're pretty much people too. They got some really bright people, just like you do in your community, and some not so bright people, just like you do in your community. So don't get stuck on a nationality and whose nationality is more sophisticated or better educated or one thing or another. That's not the point. You're missing out completely. You're 2 human beings trying to come to an agreement. That's all. And if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But there are sometimes a partner, if you've got 2 of you, the second one can say, you really didn't treat him very nicely there. And watch each other. It's a tone of voice and a way of looking at people. Just treat them as like any decent human being you treat in your own society, and be done with it and not worry about it. But we sometimes we fail to do that. Okay. That's it. That's what I wanted to talk about, those things. Never buy something sight unseen, not having come to Panama and having actually looked at it. If you don't have title, it comes with the sale, then there's no sale. You use a lawyer before you do anything else, and you make sure that everything is up, clean and neat and paid in terms of the property and the owner and everything else. You don't plan to flip a property in a matter of 3-6 months. Oh man, I'm going to make a fortune. Nope. Just assume 99% probability that ain't going to happen. Don't just think because somebody speaks your language or they come from your country. And the smaller country of you there are here, the more likely this is to be a major issue, in a sense, because you're the only other Thai or Indian that you've met, and that makes it really special. Don't let any of that get in your way. It may be useful, it may not. Just don't worry. Nobody cares about the color of your passport. You shouldn't care about the color of theirs. And finally, don't underestimate Panamanians as somehow newbies or just not as sophisticated as you are and so forth when it comes to real estate. They really have done this thing many times before. Okay, that settles that. I wanted to say a few things about vaccinations, because people want to know. Okay, fine. As I said, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail in it, but we do have our first Delta patient. And by the time I get finished with this, they may have found a few more. I don't know. But poor guy, 14-year-old boy in the western part of the country, Cherokee Province. That's out where Boquete and Volcan are, in that end of the country. And we don't know. Well, it's being traced, and we'll try to find the details. There's no panic, but we know it's very important to get ready for this because it is rapidly spreading. It is reduced in severity, definitely, by vaccination. But more to the point here, too, is this is particularly harmful to young people. A 14-year-old boy. Such it is. We'll deal with it. But so far, we're moving very, very well. We have a lot of, we have everything we need for the vaccination program to move. And it's been moving rapidly, and it's going to go right on moving, and that's that. And we want to keep this country open and make it more open as we can. But we'll do that when we're ready to do it. And hopefully, that'll be soon. One last thing, I put 3 links in below in the description area. There's an issue been brought up by the Department of Justice in the U.S. government seeking information regarding the possibility that American citizens have attempted to evade paying federal taxes by the use of services of one of the law firms here in Panama City, and they are collecting that information. This is obviously only affecting people who've already been here and done work, and specifically those who may be involved in this situation. I'm not going to judge it. I'm not going to discuss it. Legal things are not my deal. But it is rather sweeping. And I think it's something that people should at least be aware of. But so much is going on right at the present time, it seems to have been missed by many. So I'm just going to put up the Justice Department's explanation and perhaps a couple other links to try to help you understand what's going on, if it's of any importance to you, which it may not have any importance at all. But I've done it, so at least I think I've shared it if anyone really needs to hear it. Thanks. Sorry for the sudden return.